photographing the way I do, but with my colors, this will change everything.
I got to see each frame, each position of its wing, and they're so beautiful that I have never seen before.
Being able to move quickly and working at my brain's pace and getting those shots in the moment. Having this camera allows you to go out and create the way you want to create.
Until you use it, you cannot even imagine what you have missed.
It's something I've never seen before in my entire life. It's something totally different.
Nikon Z6 III. Outperform.
Introducing ISO Color Edge. Precision is essential for any professional working with images. Whether you're an artist, a retoucher, or a visual effects specialist, you need to know that what you see at the start of a project is precisely what you'll get at the end. Color Edge monitors give consistent, reliable accuracy that guarantee no surprises within your color workflow. So what you see in real life is what you see on screen, and what you see on screen is what you see in real life. That's precisely why professionals all over the world trust ISO Color Edge for their image creation. ISO Color Edge. Discover living, breathing color.
Good evening and welcome to the judging of the 9th category in the 2025 Australian Photographic Prize. We're onto the architecture category. So whether you're tuning in from Australia or anywhere around the world, we're so glad that you have joined us. So I am Robin Campbell. I am the Foundation Director of the Australian Photographic Prize, and I've been invited here on behalf of Daniel Bingham, our competition director, and of course our wonderful director of judging, Chris Anderson, who you're going to be seeing tonight as well. And they've both worked incredibly hard to bring this year's awards together. Also, big thanks to Nathan Bingham, who's running the live stream, which is now up and going. Thank you for using the new link, everyone. And Helen Bingham, our scribe. So in Australia, we open events with what is called an acknowledgement of country. So I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which this event is hosted today, the Wurundjeri Woi Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to any First Nations people joining us today. We would really like to thank our sponsors. Without our sponsors, we wouldn't have great prizes to give away. So huge thank you to Nikon, our major sponsor. Nikon is awarding our overall winner with $5,000 in Nikon gear. How cool is that? So special shout out to Julie, Kylie and the Nikon team. We'd also like to thank our wonderful division sponsors. AZO, they're supporting the 2025 Creative Photographer of the Year with a monitor valued over $2,500. Thank you to KL and Godox for sponsoring our Classic division and Ilford for our Single Capture division. Now, we also have Photography Studies College, who are offering a $1,500 scholarship to our High School Photographer of the Year, and Print Shop. We really appreciate the contribution of a consultation with the legendary Nathan and two A1 prints valued at $500, and that's going to our Student of the Year. So take a moment to visit their websites, tag them in your posts, and show them some love. Their support is really valued. Thank you so much to our sponsors. So tonight's session will run. You will see each finalist image being assessed live by our expert panel from all over the world in real time with commentary, insights, and challenges. Scores will be displayed on screen as we go. Once all the images have been judged, our panel will deliberate offline to determine the top 3 place getters. First, second, and third will be revealed at our live awards presentation next Sunday, the 20th of July. So make sure you mark it in your calendars and join us. Before we begin tonight's judging, I'd like to acknowledge our dear friend, Steve Scalone. In April 2024, we lost our dear friend and colleague, a true gentleman, a gifted photographer, and a beloved contributor of the photographic community. I'm wearing his jumper today. Steve's passion for photography was only matched by his generosity of spirit. His presence lit up our judging room, and he always had something positive to say in the kindest way possible. Last year, we introduced a special category in honour of Steve. This year, that tribute lives on. The architecture category remains a permanent part of the Australian Photographic Prize. It's a space where Steve's legacy can continue to live on. Though he's no longer here with us in person, Steve's spirit is embedded in this community, and we remember him, and we continue to be inspired by him. We'll now do a run through of the top 30 architecture finalists. Over to you, Nathan. I now have the honour of welcoming back our wonderful Director of Judging and Panel Chair mentor, Chris Anderson, also a dear friend of Steve Scalone and someone who will keep holding the torch of his memory. Over to you, Chris.
Thanks, Robin. Hi, everyone. I'm really glad we had that slideshow so I could get myself back together again after that. Welcome to the architecture category. And like looking at those images we just saw on the slideshow, this is going to be spectacular. So I cannot wait to go through this. The architecture category, and actually, judges, if you could please do your conflicts right now, that would be great. Architecture category, the rules are urban, rural, and abstract architecture, images celebrating the design and feeling of architectural elements and spaces. And this category is pretty wide open as far as editing goes. Like all of our categories, you cannot use generative AI to create pixels. Other than that, we have access to the full range of post-production and digital manipulation techniques that you can see in our general image rules, which includes composites. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about this panel that we have today, because this is a spectacular panel. Oh my gosh, we're going to have so much fun. I'm going to start with Christopher Ian. Christopher, he first attended awards for APA, that's the old Australian Awards, back in 1981, which is a little while ago. He's got this portfolio that is across portraiture, sandscape? Well, you can do sandscapes now, Christopher. Landscape, scientific, family, documentary, and travel photography. He's won 2 silver medals at the World Photographic Cup. He was the Portrait Photographer of the Year for the AIPP, and he's one of the things that Christopher often brings to judging like this is he has such a rich knowledge of photographic history, and he infuses his critique with that. It's really special, and I'm really happy to have you back on the panel, Christopher. We've also got Craig Wetjen. Now, Craig's got a measly 38 years of experience behind the camera. He's a photographer, educator, and author. He actually worked at NASA, so he is the closest thing we have to a genuine rocket scientist on the team. I'm just going to say he's our rocket scientist now. Look, aside from all of this cool stuff, in 2016, the book Men in Their Sheds was a bestseller, and its job was to help bring awareness to men's mental health through imagery, which is a really amazing project for Craig. So welcome, Craig. Excellent to have you here. And we've also got Johan van Kaan. Johan is a wedding and portrait photographer and also an architecture photographer, which is why we've got him today. He finds rhythm, calm, and character in spaces as well as in people. And his photos usually invite quiet reflection, and they reveal something gentle and layered just beneath the surface. He's a fellow of the NZIPP. He's won the Ian Poole Judges Award there twice, which is an award bestowed by the public on the judge that had the best impact. And he is a caffeinated photographer and closet poet. And we'll probably hear some of that tonight. So welcome, Johan. Matthew Vasilescu is a Sydney-based commercial photographer, and he's been working pretty hard on judging panels, actually. So thanks for working hard, Matthew. He's got decades of experience working as a photographer. He likes to blend science and instinct in all of his images. He's earned accolades like the highest scoring print at the AIPP APA Awards. So he's an exceptional photographer, and it's great to have him here. As a commercial photographer, architecture is a really important part of that portfolio. So good to have your instinct and insight here, Matthew. We've got Mika Boynton. So Mika is a specialist landscape and aerial photographer, and she's based in Bright in Victoria. She's won a couple of awards here and there all over the world, including the NZIPP Australian Landscape Photographer of the Year in 2022, 2023, and 2024. We'll see how you go this year, Mika. Maybe there's going to be some challengers. She's co-owns the Alpine Light Gallery in Bright with her partner, Matt Palmer. So if you're ever in Bright, you must go there. Mika, it's great to have you on the panel. We've got Peter Barnes. Peter is a commercial photographer. He's based in Adelaide, and his work is known for his clarity and his technical strength. So he documents the built environment with precision and purpose, which makes him an absolute natural for a category like architecture. He's been a finalist in the Bonus Art Prize, the Emma Hack Art Prize, the Parklands Art Prize, and the Nyland Prize. So he's got a fair number of accolades to his name as well. Peter, excellent to have you here. Last, and I would never say least, I have to say this, I'll say best till last, Scott Johnson. Scott's from the UK. He's a UK-based photographer, educator, and international judge. Best known for his high-energy wedding work and his irrepressible sense of humor. I feel like I'm setting you up, Scott, and if you don't deliver on this, it's going to be very disappointing for everyone. He's a fellow of the Societies of Photographers. He's a Grand Master of the Societies, and this year he earned a PPA Diamond Award in the Wedding Open category in the US, which is one of the highest honors in the wedding photography. So he's also the only one of our judges for the Australian Photographic Prize that is also a panel mentor. So he's got two hats, which is good because he doesn't have any hair. So everyone, what a panel. We've got like hundreds of years, maybe, of experience on this panel to judge architecture, and I can't wait to get to some images. So I'll tell you what, let's kick it off. Let's kick it off with our first image, please. We've got 7 judges. We're going to have 5 on the panel at any one time. Our starting panel is Christopher Ian, Craig Wetchen, Johan van Kaan, Matthew Vasilescu, and Mika Boynton. All right, and we have an 82, a silver award. I'm not sure we're going to hang around there very long now. Craig, would you, or is that you making it? You want to wave your hand at me if you want to do a challenge, Craig? Excellent, fantastic. Hey, Craig, let's challenge. You got to come off mute. Excellent.
You had to move it across 3 screens. Yeah, look, the beautiful part of this image is the rhythm and the movement that's going on here. It really leads you into this sense of color that's going on in this background. Yeah, you've got this undulation between the black and white on the left-hand side, and then you've got this real beautiful sense of and hint of color in the background. And I really love that rhythm and the way the photographer has led us into to what he or she really wants us to look at. So I just find this image just really extraordinarily seen and photographed, and I loved how we're leading into that beautiful part in that right hand side of the image. I'm really curious to see why we can't get this up to a silver distinction.
Thanks, Craig. Mika, would you like to talk to this image?
Yes, I scored this 78. I think this is a really strong image and I appreciated the undulating lines. However, I feel like there's a bit of a disconnect because some of the lines are a bit more jagged. So that smooth undulation is a little disconnected. And that is the architecture, but it carries across to the feeling that you get looking at it. In addition to that, I feel like the lighting in a few areas, the light coming through, the yellow light is not complementary with the beautiful blue panels of the part of the architecture in the distance. And if you zoom in to the areas closest to the screen, there's the round connection areas between the lines. There's a bit of chromatic difference that I think could have been minimized with some noise reduction. So I was on 78, but I'm definitely listening to what you have to say, Craig.
Thanks, Mika. Matthew, you're pretty close to the average.
Yeah, I'm right on the average. I'm at 83. Um, I appreciate the things that Craig has mentioned as well. There's a lovely rhythm in it. I really enjoy the fact that we haven't overused the shapes that are there. We haven't tried to include everything. The photographer has found a way to include enough of the structure to give us a sense of what the building is and the complications that are in there. And the things that I'm seeing in it, which is what's got me in that silver range, is just simple things like sensor cleaning. That top left curve where those white panels are, there's rather a large dust spot that's there. The other thing that I learned from a very good friend of mine in the last few years, having shot a lot of these things, frequency separation in those panels. It's a really fabulous way to clean up flat panels like that in architecture and architectural buildings that's non-destructive, that really neatens up any of the dirtiness that might be on there that obviously you can't get to.
Excellent. Thanks, Matthew. Craig, right up reply.
Yeah, look, I think sometimes we can, I guess, overlook the simplicity of the approach of the photographer here, and for them to look, I've written some notes in here giving us this great depth perspective of what's going on here. And Mika, you've brought out that yellow and that aspect, and that actually, actually adds that warmth and that depth because you've got that warm color that's coming through that helps it to come forward to us, and then the coolness will help it recede. So that's where I'm really given this real aspect of that depth that's having this tunnel effect. So that's really where I saw this sitting there. So I'm asking for that coming up to an 88 and looking at a good demonstration of strong concept and execution.
Excellent. Thanks, Craig. You're going to keep your score at 88. Everyone else, you may rescore. All right, moved up 1 point. Every point counts. 83, silver award. Excellent conversation, everyone. Today, I'm going to keep people moving through the panel pretty quick. So, Christopher, you can have a short break, and Peter Barnes, you can come on, and we'll have our next image, please. While our judges are looking at this one, and that last one, we had a challenge where under certain conditions, if one judge is 5 or more points away or they're in 90 plus, they can elect to challenge an image, and we go through a defined debate process, after which that first judge has to hold their score, and the other judges can rescore if they've got new information that encourages them to move. And we have an 83, a silver award. So congratulations to the entrant. Peter, you were bang on the average there.
Yeah, I like the way that the photographer has explained to us how the various levels in this building work. I like the fact that there's a little head poking over the top, almost a Scalonish type head, to give us a bit of scale and a bit of interest. To improve it, or what stopped me from taking it up any higher was the resolution down the bottom seems to, or the sharpness down the bottom seems to have dropped off a bit. And I suggest to the photographer that they have a look at how they might address that. But a delightful image. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Peter. Craig, you can have a little break. And Scott Johnson, let's get you on the panel. Next image, please. All right, and we have an 85, silver with distinction. An excellent result for this photographer. That's fabulous. Mika, could I get a comment from you, please?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything quite like this, so I'm really appreciating the originality of this image. I really like the way that the image has been constructed in that the top, I guess, 2/3 almost looks like, makes me think of train windows or old school movies. And the bottom is very modern, and you've got that great combination of the cool blues and the warm oranges. I'm not entirely sure what I can recommend to improve the image. Sometimes I think you can only go so far with certain images. I think it's super well seen, and I think you've done a really great job with what you have been, what you've given us.
Excellent. Thanks, Mika. Peter, did you want to add something just quickly?
Just quickly, the cables that go across there, when I first saw them, I thought, oh, why didn't the photographer take them out? And then I decided that they added to the feel of the image. But just a word, if you're doing this commercially and you were on commission from an architect or the owner of the building, then I'd very much want to see those cables removed.
Excellent. That's really good advice, Peter. Thank you. Okay, Christopher, you can come back in, and Johan, you can have a little bit of a break, and we'll have our next image, please. And we have an 84, a silver award. Excellent work for this photographer. Can I get a comment from you, Scott?
Yeah, you certainly can. This is a striking image. It's almost like pop art. I'm really, really enjoying this. And I was bang on the money. I scored the image 84. One thing I'm loving the green and the white and the red. It breaks it up. There's some harmony that's there. What stopped me going up to the next score category, when I went for a closer look, where the green meets the white, it's a little bit dirty. Love to have seen that be tidied up a little bit more to give it a cleaner and fresher look. But that aside, I think it's a very, very striking image, and I'm very happy to give it 84. Well done.
Excellent. Thanks, Scott. Christopher, quick second comment.
Yes, just reminds me of dazzle ships, the idea that you can deceive the eye by perception. This is just amazing, the way you've conceived this and cropped it. So there's no relevance, there's no reference point that we can hang on. So we're not sure, is it receding, advancing? It's brilliant.
Excellent. Thanks, Christopher. Matthew, you can have a short break, and Craig, you're back on. Next image, please. our judges are able to zoom into the image to 100%. So there's details that they can most likely see that if you're watching on the live stream, you probably can't see that level of detail. So when they're talking about some of that finer detail, it's going to be very meaningful to the photographer. Christopher. All right, we have an 84, a silver award. And Christopher, you were looking at that for quite a long time, and you're bang on the average.
Well, it really looks like the best that we're seeing in aerials, whether they're landscape aerials or industrial aerials. You have no idea of the perception of color if you're at ground level. It's only from above that you can see this color. I think it's amazing, geometrically beautiful.
Brilliant. Thanks, Christopher. Peter, quick comment from you.
Yes, I was in a John Gollings workshop, famous Australian architectural photographer, and he talked about the need to exploit the geometry of the subject. And this photographer has done that brilliantly. Put I'll assume it's a drone, not a helicopter, right over the center of all of this, even though it's not precisely symmetrical. That vertical thing is right in the middle, and it's very vertical, and the horizontal lines are very horizontal. And as a result, we've got a very strong image, which plays to the little bits of orange and other colors that are around the outside, which just all add up to a delight to the eye.
Awesome. Thanks, Peter. Johan, you can come on and do some judging. And Mika, you can have a short break. We'll have our next image, please. Craig? Awesome. We have an 81, a silver award. Now, who would like to make a comment on this one? Let's go to Scott Johnson. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, really enjoying this. I was 83. I think this is a really strong image that sits perfectly within the silver category. I'm enjoying the crop. Some people just want to keep it at 4:3 or 16:9. I think that there's art in creating a perfect crop, and I'm loving that I'm going straight into the yellow and the cross there. One thing that I would have maybe liked to have seen to help elevate this a little bit more, that tiny little triangle on the lower right hand side, I'm just being drawn down to that and taking me away from what is a really strong composition. So just have a little play with that, but no, I'm really enjoying it. Thank you for entering.
Brilliant, Scott. Thank you. Okay, Matthew, you can come back in, and Peter, you can have a short break, and we'll go to our next image, please. All right. Well, interesting. We have an 86 silver with distinction, and Scott is making the international symbol for I'd like to challenge, please. Scott,
Challenge!
It's subtle, but I've got you. Scott, kick it off.
Oh my word. When this popped up in the carousel of images, I looked at this and I straight away I was like, man, I wish I'd taken that. It is absolutely stunning. I was at 92. I think this firmly sits up in the gold category. For me, you've got a number of things going on here. You've got the deeper green to the left, growing to the brighter green to the right. The grey, the tonality in the grey is just beautiful. But what I'm really enjoying more is that little bit of glass, that cloud. It has been beautifully exposed across the board. There's not one blown highlight that I can see in that sky. And I think it's just, this is art. We are looking at a piece of art here, and I'm really interested to see what my other judges think about this.
Excellent. Thank you, Scott. Other judges are all pretty in a pretty tight scoring range. Matthew, could we get a comment from you, please?
Yeah, look, Scott, I definitely do agree. It's a real hit you in the face image with that green as it bleeds across. The little peek into the cloud is really lovely. I'm even looking at all of those parts of the panel that we're stepping up the stairs and up a stairway to the top right. I'm sitting at 85 at the moment, and again, some of the reason that I'm there is some sensor spots and some dust and some things on those flat panels that really could have been very, very simply and easily cleaned up, especially the fact in this category we have the full range of post-production that's available to us. But in saying all of that, presenting this to the panel supplier who puts those things on the wall and anyone who's involved in this project, they would be ecstatic with this picture.
Great. Thanks, Matthew. Johan, you had some comments on this one too.
Yeah, I really love this photograph. I think it's outstanding. I'm so pleased that the photographer hasn't chosen to saturate the hell out of it. I'm so pleased that they've managed to exercise such restraint. I would have liked, though, for a couple of things to be fixed. Right across the top, there's a couple of the fasteners that intersect with the edge of the frame, which would have been an easy fix and so simply would have made it more complete. And then just the underside of the steel beam on the left-hand side of the image, it could have been just tidied up a little bit where it's got those black marks on it. But it is exceptional. I'm happy to lift. I'll need a bit more convincing to get into a gold-colored thing, though.
All right. Thanks, Johan. Scott, back to you.
Yeah, thank you, judges. I really appreciate your comments and feedback, and I'm with you. There could be some slight tidying up on the grey panel, but you're absolutely right, Johan. This photographer has made a choice. It's so easy just to whack the sliders up and go, have all the green. This is green. Look at this. But they've made a choice to keep this calmness about this image. The lineal verticals and horizontals are perfectly straight. The journey I'm taking from the top right all the way down to the green and then back up and leaving on that white cloud, I think it's just one. I'm at 92. I'm not asking you to jump up into the 90s, but I think some of you I'm seeing here are just in the 84s, just a couple of points, maybe to get this up a couple of points. And I think we would do the author a nice bit of justice. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Scott. You're going to hold your score at 82. Other judges, please rescore now. And you're a convincing man. You got a couple of points. 88 silver with distinction. So another photographer is going to be absolutely stoked with that. This is not a comment on your judging, Scott, but you're going to take a little break now. And Mika, you can come on and let's have our next image, please. And we have an 83, a silver award. Congratulations to the photographer. Craig, I would love to get some feedback from you about are you trying to challenge? You are not far enough away to challenge, my friends. You are 4 points away. It's so close. Um, so unfortunately, that is not available to you right now. Um, and I might go to someone a little bit lower in the scale so we can get a mix of feedback. Mika, do you have some feedback for the photographer, please?
Yeah, I think the photographer has done really well controlling those bright highlights, and the flat sky. To change this to monochrome, I think, is a really effective choice. The couple of I really love the shapes, and the photographer has chosen to really emphasize that. So I commend the photographer for all those things. In terms of improving the image, there's the panel in the foreground. It just doesn't quite match up with the corrugated iron fence behind it, and it's so I mean, you might have had to stand on something to get that little bit of extra height so that it did intersect, but that would have certainly strengthened that impact of those lines meeting. And also the brightness of, there's a rectangular kind of bright shape underneath the triangle on the right that's drawing my eye away from all the other really cool stuff. So perhaps dulling that down a little bit would have helped, but really effective photograph.
Excellent. Thanks, Mika. That's great feedback. Um, Christopher, you can have a short break. Scott will get you back on the panel, and we'll have our next image, please. Sometimes you'll notice when our judges are speaking, they're looking off to the side. Often our judges have two monitors and they're working with a professional, often a 4K, fully calibrated monitor, perhaps like a monitor provided by our sponsor, Azo. So we encourage our judges to use that so they can see the full depth of highlight and shadow detail and have your images displayed in the best possible way. And we have an 82, a silver award. So congrats to the photographer for that one. Matthew, I'd love to get a comment from you about this, please.
Look, it's a lovely object. I know this object, and it's been captured, it really superbly for what is around it. There's lovely control through the tonality of it. I think the thing that I'm looking at the most that's keeping it in that silver range is right in the center of the image. There's just this brightest little bright point that really attracts your eye, sort of keeps your eye sitting right there. Other than that, it's really nicely crafted image.
Great, thanks, Matthew. Let's see. Let's bring Peter Barnes back on, and Craig, you can have a little break, and we'll go to our next image, please. Scores, please, judges. All right. Well, we have an 82, a silver award, but we have such a wide variance of scores with Peter Barnes sitting up 10 points ahead. That makes for an automatic challenge. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to start a challenge. Peter's going to get to speak first. And because it is an automatic challenge, Peter will not get a right of reply when the process is finished. However, he will be allowed to move his score, which you cannot do if you're challenging an elective image. So, Peter, you're going to kick us off, and then others, if you'd like, because we're talking about 90s, if you'd like to speak to this image, just raise your hand, everyone else, and I will visit you. So, Peter, kick us off, please.
Come on, folks, this is a delightful image. Well, it's a delight. I don't know how many images we've got there, very many, and all of them are just wonderful. The colors complement each other. There is such a wide variety of different things happening in each of those little frames that you could just spend hours getting lost in it. The full credit to the photographer for having seen this and for having been able to line the camera up in a way that gets it all so straight and symmetrical against this chaos, this maelstrom of other images that are coming through the frames. I'd encourage you all to come up. I think it's at least worth a gold. Certainly a silver with distinction.
Thank you, Peter. Mika, let's come to you next, please.
Yeah, I scored this 77. I appreciate from a distance, it really has impact. And I've not seen this photographed before. I really enjoyed the colors and the shapes and the vibrance of it. However, on closer inspection, it doesn't reward as much. So when you zoom in, it's got a softness to it that it's not as rewarding. So that was detracting for me, and also the really bright areas at the top right. I would love to overlook that, but I find, given the soft, almost painterly quality of the rest of the image, I find the sharpness of the brights over on the top right quite distracting, and the crunchiness of the contrast in comparison to the softness over the rest of the image. But I'm certainly listening, and if those things can be addressed, then I can certainly come up with my points, because I do really think that initial impact is terrific.
Excellent. Thanks, Mika. Scott, you were right on the average.
Yeah, I was at 82, and like Mika said, the initial reaction here was like, oh wow, this is incredible, and what an image to walk past. And you can imagine the author walking down the street and going, I think there's an image there, and taking the risk on it, and I think it's beautifully done. I'm also with Mika. I think all of the right hand side, there's a change, it's a shift in contrast on like 3 panels going all the way down vertically. I think if that was addressed, I would come up from 82. And I think for me, being really picky, and I love being really picky when it comes to stuff like this, it just knock the crop in 1 window pane, so that blue square at the bottom is central to the image. The fact it's just off by 1 panel, my OCD alarm is whirring away. So I'm going to come up a couple of points. I think I've been a bit stingy because of it, and Peter's quite right. I think this is worth more than a silver, so I shall be coming up.
All right, excellent. I think we've got a pretty good set of feedback from judges across the scoring range, so we're now going to allow everyone to rescore, and that includes you, Peter. You may change your score. And we've moved up a couple of points, 84, a silver award. So excellent discussion, everyone. That was great. Okay, let's keep us moving. So we're going to bring Christopher back on, and Johan, you get to have a little bit of a break. And we'll go on to our next image, please. If the rules for the elective challenge and automatic challenge sound a bit strange, have a look in our Australian Photographic Prize community. There are some posts there that explain how these work in great detail, and you can learn more about them there. Christopher, scores, please. Excellent. All right. Well, we have an 84, a silver award. I very much doubt we're going to stay there. Matthew.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to stay there. No. Well, at least I hope we're not going to stay there. Look, this image initially, the impact straight away, even for a mono image the way it is, looking at it on the screen, it just plays, it tinkles across the screen. When we saw this on the run through, it felt like sitting in the cinema and listening to the Dolby DTS thing going digga 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 across the screen. That's what I was hearing as I'm looking at this image. The tonal range in it is gorgeous. We've got blacks all the way through to whites, from lovely greys and grades through it. There's even the nicest little streaks of white in some of the panels on the left. Um, uh, um, I think probably an improvement for it, and something that I saw Craig doing as well is maybe that black on the right. It is a little bit heavy, but even so, I'm sitting at 92, and I think we need to raise the level of this at least into a silver distinction if you can't come up to where I'm sitting.
All right, thanks, Matthew. Let's go to Scott Johnson, please.
Yeah, I agree with Matthew. I was at 83, and the reason I was at 83, again, so I've started a conversation halfway through. Let me start that again. I was at 83. I agree with Matthew. The tonality of the black to the white and the grey is absolutely sublime. It is a feast, a visual feast for the eyes. The reason I didn't go up above 85 initially, I just think it's a bit too tight. I'd like to see a little bit more, even a little bit more space. It's a bit cramped at the top. The black on the right-hand side is just pulling me away from this beautiful tonality, or the other way is to crop in and lose all of the black and just give me that beautiful grey, black and white. And that's why I was at 83, but I am listening to the other judges.
Brilliant. Thanks, Scott. Peter Barnes, do you have anything you want to add?
I do. To me, a good architectural photograph ideally describes the building as well as giving you something for your eyes and your brain to very much enjoy. This isn't describing the building. There is a lot of things in there for your eye to enjoy, but not enough for me to lift it out of being a very highly refined and distinct. Sorry, I'm reading the wrong category here. To lift it out of silver, the highly competent, strong and creative image with clear strengths. It's got a lot of those, as has already been said. The black on the right just really cools my excitement about this image, because it just drops off into nothing, and we ended up with a graphic shape that doesn't do a lot for me. And that's a very subjective statement, I know, but that's how I think you need to react to photographs which turn a physical structure into an abstract design.
Thanks, Peter. Mika.
Yeah, I'm appreciating this from an artistic perspective, and I do think architectural work can be appreciated just as art and not necessarily about the building itself. That's my opinion of it. But I think the things that I've scored at 89, which is just under gold, and the reason that I didn't go into gold is because if you look very closely, and remember we can do anything in terms of post-production in this category. The third row of triangles from the bottom just have this little white spot in the right-hand corner of almost all of them. And if you zoom into the top part of the image where the top line intersects with the border, there's just a bright white bit that just keeps drawing my eye to it. The only whites in this image are actually at the bottom, and so to keep calling my eye to that spot where there's nothing, there's no need for my eye to be fixating on that, I think it is an issue. And in addition, there's a couple of other very bright bits just along the edge on the right hand side. They are literally the tiny reasons that held me back from gold. So I'm listening, but I'm pretty happy with 89.
All right, thanks, Mika. Matthew, back to you.
Thank you, judges. Thank you, everyone. Yes, there are definitely things in there that I agree with. I think that right-hand side, the black is probably a little too heavy. But as far as the structure and the structure of the building, thinking about the person that has inspired most of us when we're taking architectural images, we are looking at form, the shape, the tone and the curves of the structures that are made. They don't necessarily always have to tell us the entire story. They can tell us parts of the story. And this is a part of the story and a part of the building that has been captured and seen. You know, even that curve where, you know, we're 2/3 of the way to the right, that it just, you can just see the building curving over. Those little highlights, Mika, on the right, and I know one right towards the top on the right, that's just the building. That's the white panel. That's what it is. You know, when you look at paneling like this, I think it at least needs to come up into a silver distinction to reward the photographer for what they've seen and the beautiful tonality that they've delivered us on this screen.
Thanks, Matthew. All right, you're going to hold your score at 92. Everyone else, you can rescore, please. You've been successful. We moved up to an 87, silver with distinction. Good work, team. That's fabulous. Craig, let's get you back in. And Matthew, after that effort, you can have a little rest. Don't go too far. We'll have our next image, please. You're just tuning in. You're watching the architecture category judging for the 2025 Australian Photographic Prize. All right, we have an 80, a silver award. Are we all happy with that?
Yes.
Okay, then let's get a comment from Chris. Oh, Craig, was that you wanting to make a comment? Excellent. Let's get a comment from Craig then.
Sure was. Look, I really wanted to go up a lot higher. Look, I scored at 77. And I felt really strong about that because, you know, given the category and the fact that we can do things to this, it's reduction of noise. You've got control to be able to reduce noise. Yeah, just, you know, that crunchy grain that's going on in there, I think you can really play with that and work with that because it comes really, really nice when you get into the center. But you go out to the sides and you go out to the low where, you know, where you're trying to pull out the image when the image is actually not there. So readdress the capture point and play with that and, you know, play with noise reduction.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Peter, did you want to add something?
I wanted to explain why I didn't challenge when I could have, and that was because I scored at silver with distinction and then had second thoughts and saw some of the things that I hadn't seen on first looking that, and Craig's mentioned them very well. So yeah, so apologies to the photographer for maybe getting their hopes up, but I think it's at 80, it's probably a good score.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks for that explanation. Appreciate it. We're going to do a little quick judge change. So, Johan, you're going to come on, and Mika, you're going to have a little break. And we'll go to our next image, please. Right. We have an 85, a silver with distinction. Congratulations to the photographer. Scott Johnson, could I get some feedback from you, please?
Yeah, big Andor fan, loving this location. I had the pleasure of photographing here. It is beautiful, and it's actually really refreshing to see a little flash of color in there. You normally, this type of image in Valencia, it's normally a very high contrasty black and white, or it's just all a bit monochromatic, but I'm really enjoying that little flash of orange there. One thing that I was at 83, so I'm loving it. Bang into silver, congratulations. For me, I would have loved to have seen that extension of reflection on the very right-hand side rather than the edge of the water pool. So if the photographer is on stream, if you're going to go back a little side step to the left, or anyone that is going to be going there, and complete that reflection, and that would just help keep me in that frame just a little bit longer. But well done. It's absolutely beautiful.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. Johan, do you have a really quick comment? You're on mute. You're still on mute, Johan. You excellent.
Add on to that, just removing those tripod legs along the side of the water there would have been perhaps a smart move. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Excellent. All right, thanks everyone. We're going to go on to, actually, before we move on to our next image, Matthew, you get to come back, and Peter, you can have a little break, and we'll go on to our next image, please. We have an 84, a silver award. Congratulations to the photographer for this one. Anyone keen to make a comment? If not, I'm going to go to Christopher.
Well, this could be an ad for any of our major camera manufacturers. The optics have demonstrated so perfectly in this frame. We've looked at photos which were maybes. This is pin sharp, edge to edge. Your sense of color harmony is just brilliant. You've got this clash of tonalities. It's brilliant.
Fantastic, Christopher. Anything the photographer could do to improve this image?
I actually think that the little emblem that's in the center, if there was something that was also like that just told us a little bit more, something sneaking through an edge of a poster or something, just so we could put a handle on where we are and what we're looking at.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. Before we go to our next image, please, Mika, you can come on, and Scott, you can get a short break. Matthew? Excellent. All right. We have an initial score of 89, a silver with distinction.
Challenge.
Well, Mika, you can challenge, but we do have someone else who's a little bit higher than you. So, and given that the challenger isn't allowed to move their score, it might make more sense for Craig to take this challenge. So, Craig, are you happy to do that?
Heck yeah.
All right, let's do this.
I'm in the middle of writing my notes here, what I want to say. For the photographer to turn this, beautiful sense of architecture to such a graphic in such a graphic way. And I just love that graphic beauty. There's a real sense of relationship between the shapes and the lines create, and then this stark white line in the middle that really gives us the depth, the tonal range that is just so sublime throughout this. I looked at this, every inch across this frame, and I could not find a single fault. The shapes, the balance that's going on, and the play with the triangles and the half semicircles, and triangulation. And triangles are so pleasing to the eye, yet they're not complete, but yet if the image gives us this sense of finished completeness. And I just love the total essence of presentation of something, out of this world. So I took it right up to 97, and we're sitting at 89, folks. Man, we need to really come up to a gold distinction.
Thank you,
One of the
Craig.
best images I've seen.
Given that we're talking about an image like this, we're probably going to go to most, if not all, of our judges. So, Christopher, I might come to you next, please.
I was a little cruel, I'll give you that, and I will be coming up. I just thought that on my screen, it looked like it needed to be printed on a grade stronger paper. If the old school method was to be, there's just, everything's grey, even the black is grey. That was the only reason. But I actually am coming up because architecturally it's gorgeous.
All right, brilliant. Thanks, Christopher. Johan.
Right. Yeah, I apologize for giving it a low score, and I definitely will be coming up. And I felt what you felt, Christopher. I felt, it needed some sort of oomph. And then I thought of a famous photographer called Steve, who used the word sublime so well. And this is as sublime as you can get. There's gentility, there's this wonderful sweeping curve. There's a line that takes you from sharp to soft in a comforting way. The lines that lead up from the corner don't just quite make the corner, but that actually makes you more interested. So it's a little bit unpredictable. It gives so much to the viewer in a sublime way. So I'm going to sublimely raise my score higher, substantially.
Thank you, Johan. Mika, you're in support.
Yay! Please let me talk. Oh my gosh, I have so many words, and I'm so glad that I didn't challenge, because now I can go up even higher. So let me start. There's a movement to the staticness here. There is peace and tension. There is light. There are sharp edges that show the edges of things, and there are soft edges that show the borders of light. The distinction between those two is beautiful to view. There are no blacks, but to me, that shows an understated sophistication of this photographer. Nothing is over sharpened, nothing is over processed. If you zoom in to any part of the image, you have a new artwork to enjoy. Literally there's no wasted real estate here. It is the graduation of the tones is just spot on. It's so beautiful. The criteria for gold with distinction is near flawless, and for me that's what this is. This is near flawless artwork. And you know what my favorite two bits are? The pointy arrow at the top, which is counterpointed by the beautiful way that curve comes down on the right and actually has a little bit of shadow as it touches the edge. This is sophisticated excellence. I am going up from gold to gold distinction.
Thank you, Mika. Matthew, is there anything you want to add to the discussion?
Two little points to add to the discussion, which maybe I might get some boos for. So really and truly picking the percentages, the ones and twos, the little dots and zeros, as far as just those little finishing improvements. 2/3 of the way up the column on the grey inner piece, that soft edge, there is a streak across it, which is a join in gyprock or something along that line. that is such an easy little fix. Such an easy little fix. Um, the other tiny little thing, that beautiful curve down the right-hand side that, you know, falls from a lovely grey at the top to the highlight white at the bottom. Again, probably almost halfway down or a little bit below halfway down, there's a bump in it. And I'm kind of rolling down the thing and I go bump on that little bit. These are the tiny little things. Like I'm probably a little low as well. I've scored at 87, but they're the tiny little things that elevate when you've got such a perfect image.
Thank you, Matthew. Craig, your right of reply.
The saying I always used to say to my students when I used to teach is that perfection is the evil of good. We always strive for the perfect image. Is there ever a perfect image? I don't know. Is there? But what I want to conclude here is, and this is something that our good friend Steve, that he and I always used to teach, the Gestalt theory in photography. And just read you a little bit. The Gestalt theory of photography relates through the principles of Gestalt theory, which describes how human perceive visual information. And this like screams of that aspect. It gives us that sense of closure, but it's not closure, and that's one principle of the Gestalt theory that I'm talking about here. And just reiterating what Mika says is the rhythm and the you know the it just so resonates with me. So I'm asking for a gold distinction here. I'm sitting at 97. We could probably go higher.
Thank you, Craig. Your score is locked in at 97. All other judges, please rescore. Christopher?
I've done it, haven't I? Oh, sorry. You're all right.
All right, we have a 94, a very solid gold award. Congratulations to the photographer. Good work, team. That was excellent discussion. Well done. All right, let's do a little judge change. So, Peter, you can come back on, and Christopher, you can have a little break, and we'll go to our next image, please. All right, we have an 86, a silver with distinction, and Johan's going to challenge that. Take it away, Johan.
Architecture is actually for people, and the wonderful idea in this image is the inclusion of the people to show the busyness of the inside versus the complexity and intensity of the outside. So the photographer has taken us beyond the building into the building's existence by including these people. And if you look through the people, they are all doing absolutely their own thing. And they don't necessarily believe this building was built for them, but they are an inherent part of the design that you see here. It's quite splendid, really. And the use of the black and white around the central color, it tells another story about life. It's just, there's so much to take in from this. And then if you include the camera, it just tells another story on top of that. Um, yeah, it's quite rich. I gave it a 91.
Thanks, Johan. Mika, could I get you to speak to the image, please? You're on mute, Mika.
Apologies. I scored this 82 and I really appreciated the inside outside viewing and the amazing difference between the color on the outside and the much more muted tones of the reflections. And I think the photographer has done a really great job of keeping both the external reality and the internal relatively sharp, because there's a huge depth of field going on there. I think for me, the digital noise was distracting, and I hear your story, Johan, and I'm listening to that, but I guess I was looking for perhaps a little more storytelling of what the people were doing. But yeah, I probably at 82, I can certainly find some additional points for the story of the people and the using of the architecture, which is what it's for. So I'm listening to you, Johan. Thank you.
Thanks, Mika. Craig.
Yeah, look, Johan, I'm right there with you. I was gonna click 92, and I'm like, oh, is it really gold? And then I hit 88, submit it, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I should have gone with my first gut instinct. And what I really enjoy the fact that what the people in there is because they're all shooting the opposite direction. So, what I really enjoy about even more about this is, in my teachings with photography as well, I always say, bring something that different than what the architect actually presented to us. And the difference of what this photographer has brought to us is in the inclusion of all the reflections in this highly reflective room and creating this black and white image, but yet this window into reality. And you've got the alternate reality is what everybody's looking at the opposite of what you're looking at. So I like the duality that's going on here, and yeah, I'm definitely going up. So hopefully that helped you out a little bit there, Johannes.
Right, thanks, Craig. Johan, back to you.
Great. There's this thing, like when you normally look at a city as big as this city, you see the multitude of buildings like that, you think of chaos. But when you see this one through this window in this way, it actually looks incredibly calm. And then when you look at the reflections internally, they are chaos like you wouldn't believe it. And the subtle thing is that the reflections that include the city in them, so the ones that are around the perimeter of the opening, they are calm also. So I think this photographer has been very, very clever. Craig, I'm with you. You shoulda, woulda, coulda, and you must. I would love to see more people where I am in the golds, but see what you can do.
Thanks, Johan. You're going to lock your score at 91. Everyone else, please rescore. Matthew? We have a 90, a gold award. Well done, team. Excellent work. I miss being in person where there's clapping and the audience goes crazy. That's always fun. Craig, you can have a little break, and Scott, get back on the panel, and let's do next image, please. All right, we have an 84 silver award, and Johan has seen something in this image. Challenge away, Johan.
Right. There is a wonderful simplicity. For some reason, I was thinking of hieroglyphics, but I'm not sure where that came from. The yin yang of the warm orange versus the blue external is just so beautifully balanced. The pastel of it, of the sky, is incredible. There's a gentle diagonal through the photograph with the fawn on one side and the grays on the other. It's just absolutely stunning. It's held together by that zigzag that separates but joins both sides of the images together. There's such a wonderful geometry here. It's an 84 at the moment. You don't need to come to gold, but at least if we can sneak it over into a silver distinction, I'd be very happy.
Thanks, Johan. I'm sure the photographer would too. Peter Barnes, can you speak to the image, please?
Thanks, Chris. I scored this just into the silver range at 81. I agree that at a distance, it is a lovely image, and the photographer has done a very good job of composing this in the way that they have, and of using the colors in the way that they have. You can see the texture from a distance, and I was hoping that was texture that was in the panels, but when I zoom in, I see that it's actually noise, and that there's some halo marks around some of the edges, and for that reason, I held it back into the silver range. But a delightfully seen photograph all the same.
Thanks, Peter. Scott, you're right on the average.
Yeah, I agree with both Peter and Johannes. Initially, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And again, my OCD, I love things to be vertical and horizontal, but there isn't here, and that's okay. I mean, really enjoying the one vertical that I can latch onto and the craziness of nothing being straight, which is oddly fine with me. But I'm also with Peter. When you go for a closer look, it is incredibly noisy. Just pull that digital noise back a little bit. I was at 84. I am going to come up here to silver distinction because I think this image needs rewarding, but for future reference to the author, just tone that noise down just a little bit.
Thanks, Scott. Johan.
I think everything's been said. There's support there, and I think we need to just go with that and get the warm fuzzies out and go up to 80 something higher. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Johan. You can leave your score at 91. Everyone else, you can rescore now, please. All right, we're up to an 86, a silver with distinction. Excellent move. Good job, team. Let's take Johan off, and Christopher, you can come on, and we'll have our next image, please. All right, we have an 82 silver award, and Peter is actually, he's sufficiently far away that we have an automatic challenge again. So Peter's the master of the automatic challenge. You all know the deal now. Peter, you can kick us off.
Thanks, Chris. This is a brilliant application of creativity and explanation. We probably don't need an explanation of how the Sydney Opera House fits together because we've all seen so many images of it. It's such a delightfully refreshing break to have something that is very different from anything we've seen before of this building, but still explains and shows us the essence of this building. It also quite masterfully, I think, shows us how the projections onto the shells work and how they enhance the building during the time. Is it the Vivid Festival they have in Sydney that involves projections onto the Opera House? I'm assuming that this is taken during that period and does a wonderful job of showing us that as well, all in a very, very well controlled, very masterful way of telling us a story that I haven't seen before.
All right, thanks,
So
Peter.
yes, I think it's a gold image.
Excellent. Thank you, Peter. Mika, could you speak to the image, please?
Yeah, I scored this 76. I am appreciating the originality. I agree, it's not easy to show something different of such an iconic location, but I'm a little mystified as to what, apart from just different, what meaning I'm to take from this image. There's some red spots in the sky that I think are probably a drone that distract me. The chaos that I'm seeing and feeling, perhaps that's intentional, but I'm not responding in a enthusiastic way to the chaoticness of it. But I can definitely hear what you're saying, and the uniqueness of it can cause me to come up a few points, because 76 is quite low. But yeah, I'm not responding to it in the way that you are. I'm very sorry, Peter.
Thank you, Mika. Scott, can you add something to the discussion, please?
Yeah, certainly can. I was at 81, so I think this is a great silver image. And I was initially intrigued by the use of color and the technique that the photographer has used here. I'm very distracted by the lower third of the image. You probably saw I was doing the typical judge's thing where I'm sort of doing this with my hands, and I think you could easily just chop that lower third off, and I would just be left with a bit of wonder. And again, being an Englishman, I know what this is, but I'll be like, is that what I think it is? It leads me to more questions, and by losing that lower half and all the highlights and the city lights that are there. But I think I'll come up a couple of points, Peter. But I'm fairly happy with it being a silver.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, judges. So, as an automatic challenge, Peter, you can rescore. I'm sorry. All judges can rescore now, please. And we've moved up a couple of points from 82 to 84, silver award. So excellent work, everyone. Craig, let's get you back on the panel. And Matthew, you can have a little break. Next image, please. All right. Well, we have an initial score of 90, a gold award, and we have scores all over the place. Christopher, you are the highest of the judges. How would you feel about being the one to challenge this image?
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
Go for it.
The ingenuity of vision in this image is brilliant. The fact that whenever we do a triptage, we're trying to match our backgrounds, but that's because we're trying to give the same effect. Here, the object is different, so there's no need to give it the same effect. I just think the perception, I'm still trying to work out how it's been mirrored and what I'm looking at. It's just ingenious. I really do want people to pull this apart, because I can't. I think this is just the best thing I've seen tonight. The reward to the author, the photographer, The vision's brilliant. And you've had all the time in the world to put this together, and you've given us this. This is just gorgeous.
Right, thanks, Christopher. Craig, you're down the other end of the scale.
Yeah, I'm obviously way down the bottom of the end of the scale, and that's why I put it there. I just struggle with the sense of visual communication. If it was one image, one of the three, I would have gone, "Oh, what's that?" And I would have investigated even more. But now there's just too much of argument between three. It just nothing's really given me any resolve to what we're supposed to be looking at. It if that's the power of the image, then great. But there's just no visual communication on it. That's where I really struggle with it.
All right, thanks, Craig. We're probably going to talk to quite a few judges. Let's talk to Peter next. Peter's in support of this image.
I scored 92 for this, and I think I might come up given Christopher's brave 96. I'm usually not a fan of flipping and mirroring it, but this has been done in such a creative way and has created things that we've never seen before and we don't understand, as Craig has pointed out. To me, they're messages from a civilization, perhaps an alien civilization, perhaps a civilization from the future, but they're beautifully constructed. The technical work is superb, and as a whole, I really like the way that the three frames work together. Just think of it as an alien language, a lot of mysteries that the boffins are working on right now, trying to decipher. It's well worth a gold, and probably I'll come up to gold with distinction.
Thank you, Peter. Scott, love to have your words on this image.
Yeah, I went for a closer look at this. I'm at 83, and I'm with Craig. I think if there was one of the three, I would have been blown away. The issue I'm having with the three is the center image. I think has got the most neutral color to it, and the two on the right are a little bit blue magenta. I'm just being pulled. If there was a complete harmony between the three, I would have been right up there in the silver distinction. I'm listening. I'm really intrigued by them. I'm still curious, and I think what Peter said, like hieroglyphics or aliens, it's really, really cool. But I just wish there was more consistency in the colors there for me.
Brilliant. Thanks, Scott. Mika.
Yeah, I just had the biggest grin on my face. I just think it's clever, it's quirky, it's whimsical. There's like arms sticking out, legs sticking out. It makes me think of boats, like people rowing. It makes me think of dragon boats. It makes me think of Vikings. And from a distance, there's distinct shapes. You go in and the detail is exquisite. Like we're talking pixel by pixel. They're just like, honestly, you're not going to see an image that's more detailed than this. Like literally every pixel is accounted for. And all of that to me says every single thing here is intentional. I don't need to know the artist's intention because I'm just enjoying all of the interpretations I can take from this. And to think that it's obviously architectural elements, but it's not. It's art. It's bits. There's things. Okay, so boats, buildings, Vikings. Do you know? For me, I think the thing is we're seeing the personality of the creator here. And I'm enjoying it. I'm responding to that quirkiness, to that sense of the fun spirit, and it's just making me happy. And I'm at 92. I'm on gold, but I'm certainly coming up.
Excellent. Thanks, Mika. Christopher, let's finish this up.
There's value in chaos. And it's not as chaotic as you think. It is when you try to interpret it as the way we would. But if you look at the elements, there are elements of buildings and structures that we notice. there's detail in the whites that are showing you there's paving stones in there. I just think this is the most unique image. A lot of photos we've seen tonight are homages to what has gone before. This is someone going out on a limb. I see insects, but they're going out on a limb and they're almost sending us up. They say, come on, see if you can judge this. And I reckon we should give them the benefit of the doubt for their exquisite ingenuity and go into gold distinction because it is the best image tonight.
All right. Thank you, Christopher. You're going to hold your score at 96. All other judges, you're invited to rescore now, please. All right, we have a 95, gold with distinction. Well done, everyone. Fantastic. And at this point, the judges who are not on the panel are a bit sad they didn't get to take part in that debate. Let's bring one of them back. Johan, you can come on, and Mika, you can take a little break. Let's have our next image, please. The Australian winner of the architecture category goes in to the creative category, and the winner of that category wins an AZO CG 2420 monitor valued at $2,700, which is quite a great prize. That's for the winner of the creative division, which spans all of our 7 creative categories. All right, we have an 87 silver with distinction. Scott's doing the dancing. Go for it, Scott.
So I'm very lucky. I don't get bombarded with this image a lot living here in England. I was at 92, and this is, for me, one of the best images I've seen of the Opera House. The choice of black and white, the detail in the shell shapes of the Opera House is just beautiful. Those of you that at home, as Chris says, we can zoom in at 100%. My word, this is good. We are drawn exactly where we need to go. And then from there, we then pull out and we see the bridge and we see the harbour and we see the calmness of the water there. I'm at 92. This is a gold. This is the easiest nailed on gold for me all morning, and I'm really listening to what the judges have to say.
Brilliant, thanks, Scott. Christopher, let's come to you next, please.
I was a huge fan of George Tice and his work in getting detail out of blacks in deep shadows. It's just legendary stuff. Now we've got digital, you're able to do it much more successfully. There's a certain inferred look to the sculpture of the sail. So I'm almost thinking these are 2 or 3 images put together, which again says great ingenuity. My only issue is the background bridge is not contributing, it's actually clashing because you've brought it back too successfully. It's not a hint of a bridge, it's obviously there, and so it's clashing. But I do love the way you've got detail on your whites to give it that inferred look.
Thanks, Christopher. Johan.
I gave it an 87, and I really, really wanted to give it more. And I will, if you, Scott, could explain to me, because I'll tell you what I love. I love those flags on top of the bridge. They just give it that look. It's like a gift. You look at it and go, wow, that's Australia. But I'm looking at directly underneath the flags. As I follow the struts going down, I see a white line going about a third of the way down the struts, coming off the last white point of the Opera House structure. If you could explain that away to me, that'd be awesome.
All right, thanks, Johan. Scott, let's come back to you for right of reply, please.
Yeah, thank you, judges. Thank you for the great comments. The white line, I'm looking at it now. We do have the ability to do pretty much everything here. The reason why I was only at 92 was I think this could be maybe a plain contrail or something that is so faint. But again, at 100%, we can crop it out, and maybe that should have been adjusted. So if the author's watching, then yeah, just have a look at that and make sure you go in and have another look at the images before you enter it. So I take your point on board with that. That's what stopped me going up. But we're thinking at gold distinction here, an outstanding image showing excellence in conception, craft, and impact. Impact for me, how can you use what looks like off-camera flash on the Sydney Opera House with a modifier as big as that? This is given the impression this has been excellently executed, confidently original, emotional power with a few, if any, distractions. I can see one distraction for me, which is why I scored it at 92.
Thank you, Scott. You're going to keep your score where it is. Everyone else, rescore, please. And success. We have 90, gold award. Congratulations to the photographer. That's great. All right, Peter, you can have a little break. And Matthew, we're going to bring you back onto the panel. Let's have our next image, please. Right, we have an 83, a silver award. Congrats to the photographer. Craig, could we get a comment from you, please?
I would say to improve it, maybe just a little bit more tonal separation to allow to create that depth a little bit further.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Craig. Matthew, quick comment from you?
Yeah, look, quick comment from me. Again, a lovely tonal image that we've seen a few of tonight. The traveling down that tunnel is really, really lovely. I think the way to elevate it more is just sharpness throughout. You know, we really want to see in images like this every one of those pieces and lines sharp all the way through.
Great advice. Thank you. Johan, you can have a little break. And Mika, let's bring you back onto the panel. And we'll have our next image, please. All right, we have an 81 silver award. Congratulations to the entrant. Anyone keen to make a comment on this? Craig.
Yeah, look, I think just the they've tried to bring out detail that was blown out in the exposure, and it's just gone just muddy gray. So, the Brooklyn Bridge is a magnificent bridge, and just to be able to get that, I think the interesting part that could have played with you even more had you controlled those highlights is that the buildings in the background are moving, so it gives us this weird effect. But I just think better control of the highlights on the wires.
All right, thanks, Craig. Before we go to our next image, Peter, you can come on and let's give Scott a little break and let's go to our next image, please. Big thank you to our judges. Judging is really intense, and some really focused judging for 2+ hours is a lot of work, and they're doing a tremendous job. Thanks, judges. All right, we have an 82 silver award. We all have Craig's. Craig's going to challenge that. Go for it, Craig.
This is a beautiful use of tone and tonal range that's going on here. You know, this is a perfect example of how you can control noise and control tonal range. There is no noise in this image, and that's what I enjoyed, the smoothness that goes through this architecture image. And to add the elements of the shadows and the shapes allow us to give us that depth through this image. So it's just constantly moving and undulating through that movement. And it's just so smooth and supple throughout the rest of that whole image. So I really rewarded that photographer for that highly refined and distinctive demonstration of their strong control of their camera craft and the conceptual aspect of this image. So I rewarded it a silver distinction, 88. I suggest you guys look at it again.
Thanks, Craig. Peter, you're down at 77.
Yes, I hear what you're saying, Craig. And I do like the shapes that I'm seeing and the mystery. What are we looking at? And the light that's playing through it. But really, there's too much mystery. That dark bit down the bottom, although you can see it, all the details there, and there's no noise in it, as you said. It's been very well handled. It doesn't add to anything that interests me, and for that reason, I think I have to leave it in the highly commended range. But well seen by the photographer, and a lot of the stuff that Craig has said is spot on, and I do like the way the light plays on that back concrete.
Thanks, Peter. Matthew, you're pretty close to the average there.
Yeah, I'm right in the average. I scored it at 81. I appreciate the image for the concrete castings. You know, they're often generally seen as maybe not the most attractive part of an architectural building, but the reason that I'm in that area, again, like we've said a few times, zooming into the screen in that dark shadows and down the bottom, there's all these tiny little white spots. There's probably about half a dozen of them or so in there, that as you're walking across them, they're just little pinpricks that are tapping at you. So I'm quite happy with it being in a silver, because I think it's a very strong and creative image, as the category explains it.
All right, thanks, Matthew. Craig, your right of reply, please.
Yeah, look, I don't think those little spots. I mean, we could pull straws out, but look, I've loved and I've written some notes here, the yin and yang approach to this. And the play of shape and shadow. That's the beautiful aspect of this image, and I just love that, just subtle control of the undulation between the darks, and then you get into the lights and the mid grays, and it just holds your attention and holds you into what the photographer wants you to look at. So I'm asking for a silver distinction. So we're only asking for a few points, folks.
All right, thanks, Craig. Craig, you're going to keep your score at 88. Everyone else, please rescore now. And we have moved up 1 point to an 83 silver award. Thanks, everyone. And let's get some more motion on the panel. Christopher, you've been on for a little while. You can have a little break. And let's get Johan back on. And next image, please. If you've been enjoying the judging, next week from Monday to Friday, every evening, we have judging as well, and next Saturday all day. So there's plenty more where this came from. Right, we have an 87 silver with distinction, and Craig is going to go for it. Off you go, Craig.
What I really love about this image is a couple of things. Is, you know, that aerial view, but it's an aerial view that gives us a different interpretation of the world around us. And the fact that the first thing that comes to my mind, I'm thinking of a circuit board. And the fact that our life is surrounded by, you know, circuitry and the environment, and you know, the homes are built around this community center, and everything evolves and revolves around the community. And the circles, it just, there's just so much rhythm and harmony that's going on in this image, and such a bizarre sense of community. So I put it right into that just the solid gold for the presentation, the use of color, and the presentation of this. And I think it's just such a sublime image.
Thanks, Craig. Matthew, I'd love to hear from you, please.
Look, Craig, yeah, I do agree with you that, you know, the shapes and the rhythm, and viewing these things from this kind of angle is really lovely when you can see the man-made structure in a totally different and a unique viewpoint. The things that I'm looking at in it are those rooftops up the top of the image. There just seems to be, probably coming from the lensing of it, a few little bits of aberration and things that could be addressed to clean up those tiny little parts of things. And I'm just feeling a tiny little bit constrained left and right in it. You know, like we've got a lovely ribbon of road around it, but left and right, I just feel like it's a tiny little bit squeezed. And it gave us a, you know, half more of that roadway to breathe on either side, I feel like the image might breathe out a little bit more.
Thanks, Matthew. Mika, you were kind of right in the middle there.
Yeah, I scored this 88. I think the thing that I really like is that the tennis court with the lawn actually looks like a house looking like at it instead of down onto it. And I really liked the quirkiness of that, like with the windows and almost like a chimney with its smoke. Similar to Matthew, I did notice the color discrepancy along the roof lines and the verandas, top and bottom. And I don't think I have anything else to contribute that hasn't already been said.
All right, brilliant. Thanks, Mika. Craig, let's come back to you for right of reply, please.
Look, I think when we look at this, we tend to overlook the environment that we look in. Yeah, all right, we see everything from ground level. We don't see a lot from the aerial viewpoint, but I think, you know, it's very deliberate, the way the photographer has presented society, and society revolves around a community. And the visual representation that surrounds that aspect, and gives us a representation of that we live in a very sterile environment, but yet there's life there in the community. So the life is where that greenery is bringing into that community. So that's where I think this photographer really was clever at seeing this. You got the sterile environment around it, and you've got the life coming into the community. So that's kind of where I rewarded that photographer for that visual representation of something very different from those words and that aspect of that image.
All right, thank you, Craig. You're going to hold your score at 92. Everyone else, rescore now, please. All right, we've moved up 2 points to a very definitive silver with distinction. So excellent work, Craig. We're gonna give those dulcet tones a little rest, and we're gonna bring Scott Johnson on, and we'll have our next image, please. Matthew? Oh, great. We have 81, a silver award. We all happy with that? Peter's going to challenge. I can, even though he's on mute, I can read his lips. So off we go. Peter, unmute, and let's get stuck into this.
I'm so glad I got to be on the panel when this image came around, and even more excited to bump it up into silver distinction. I pressed 92 first, and then I chickened out and went back to 88. So I probably got an argument for gold, but the light in this has been handled just so beautifully. Architecturally, it's not something that floats my boat a great deal, but the way the photographer has handled the light, the way the photographer has nailed the perspective just so accurately, the way that he or she has managed to draw us into the symmetry that the architects have built into this building. It's also wonderfully done. Definitely worth a silver with distinction. Right down to the people in the image who are telling a little bit more of a story. That adds to the intrigue for me and makes me really delighted to have the chance to look into this building and to have a chance to talk about it. It's a lovely image. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Johan, can I get you to speak to this next, please?
Yeah, I gave this 78. I feel that there's two parts to this image that don't actually work together. The top half of the photograph I absolutely adore. I think if you cropped it there, I'd be so excited about the richness, the tonality, the depth, and all of that. But when I go below that, which is the part that draws me in the most, it feels unresolved. The people aren't quite sharp enough. There's a waviness to the floor. The lights that lead you down don't take me to anywhere I really want to be, because where I want to be is that top half of the picture. So I see them as a distraction. It's an amazing building, and the photographer has technically done a good job on getting everything straight. But I just feel there's a heaviness in the bottom posts and the brightness in the middle. It just becomes distracting.
Right. Thanks, Johan. Scott, you're kind of in the middle.
I am in complete agreement with Johannes here. I want to stay in that top half. The tonality, the grey, the blacks, the white is just beautiful. I think there's two images here. I think you've got the top half as Johannes said. The lower half, I think, could be a documentary image. Judging by the time, it's nearly midnight. The couple have been out for a couple of drinks. He wants to go for a kebab. She wants to go for more cocktails. You've got the person there watching them have an argument, and that's just pulling me out of what is a stunning architectural image. I was at 81. I could probably come up a couple of points, but I'm not quite as excited as Peter is about it.
All right, Peter, write a reply, please.
Yes, I see this as two images as well. I see it as a diptych. And I'd ask you to enjoy the fact that this is one image of one building, and it's showing you two different aspects of it. And the photographer has handled both levels of that in a very masterful way. And for that reason, I think it's definitely worth a silver with distinction.
All right, thanks, Peter. You can keep your score at 88. Everyone else, please rescore. Johan? Oh, good. 81. Image stays at 81, a silver award. So excellent conversation and great things for the photographer to think about. Peter, I'm going to get you to take a little break, and Christopher will get you back on, and we'll have our next image, please. All right, we have an 85, a silver with distinction. Great outcome for the photographer. Could I get a comment? Let's go to Mika for a comment, please.
This is quite an exciting image. I'm grinning at that bucket. I just think it's so, it's in the perfect position. It's got a great shadow. It really adds a lot to what's offered here. I don't know, it might be a skate park or something like that, but the colors are fantastic. The tonality is fantastic. All of the little lines that speak to how this space is used are fantastic. I'm very sorry to the photographer that I don't have a lot to offer you in terms of how you could improve this image, because I think it's already really great. The only one tiny, and it's really tiny, and I'm embarrassed to even bring it up, but I will because it's there. There's a just on the left-hand edge, there's a dark area that's pulling my eye away. You just have to be really careful with the edges, I think, because really we want to keep looking at the main subjects and not distractions. But yeah, it really is a terrific image.
All right, thanks, Mika. Some nods from the other judges while you're saying that. So it sounds like good thoughts. All right, Johan, you can have a little bit of a break. Craig, let's get you back on. Next image, please. All right, we have an 85, silver with distinction. Congratulations to the entrant. Christopher, you're bang on the average.
It's amazing how secular we are with architecture, and yet this really is going back to the Islamic world, the Christian world, domes, vaults towards God. What's letting it down? Well, the sides are not parallel. What's happening on one side is not quite what's happening on the other side, but brilliantly seen and beautifully executed.
Excellent. Thanks, Christopher. A couple other judges were keen to make a comment. I heard you say that, and they put their hand back down again. So I think you're bang on with that. Right. Peter, let's get you back on the panel. And Matthew, you. All right, we have an 84 silver award, but not if Craig has anything to do with that. Craig, take it away.
I think the beautiful aspect of this image is the tonality and the craftsmanship of the way it's been presented. And you've got these islands of civilization that are just poking through the clouds into reaching out to the gods. What I really enjoy when you zoom in on this image, it is absolutely ridiculously sharp. To look at this and to look at the tonal range and everything throughout the top part of the image where the one chapel is coming out of and reaching into the clouds. It's so sharp. And then you investigate and you just start wanting more, and then you come into this little island, this little part that's just kind of reaching out to wanting to touch base with the godly world. So the tonal range, the color palette is just so sublime in this. And I've rewarded it right there for that solid gold for that craft and the visual impact and the emotional, how emotionally powerful this is. So I've really encouraged you guys to have a really good another look at this and bring this into gold.
Thank you, Craig. Mika, you saw this a bit differently.
I scored this 81. I'm hearing what you're saying, Craig, and I can probably come up a few points, but there's two dust spots that are, I'm sorry, I can't not see them. There's one that's vertically above the right-hand side dome and one that's between the very distant pillar on the hill and the main dome. But they are minor. They're there, but they're minor. So I'm certainly listening to you. I do love the colors, and I agree that that level of sharpness in the fog is incredibly difficult, and the skill involved in achieving that is very high.
Thanks, Mika. Scott, you're on the average there.
Yeah, I agree with both the comments here. The photography is a journey, and this is a real journey from foreground, middle ground to the distance there. Um, it's so sharp. I'm like, I need a shave. I'm just going to bring my face closer to the screen. I can just take all this fuzz off. It's that sharp. It is beautiful. I agree with the sensor spots. For me, and this is a personal preference for me, I would love to see a little more warmth in the image. It's a little bit on the blue magenta side for me. I would love to see it just that touch warmer, and I would endear myself more to this image. I was at 84. I am going to be coming up into silver distinction, but well done to the author. It is. I'd have this on the wall all day long. It's beautiful.
Christopher, can I get a brief comment from you, please?
Yeah, the white at the base is incongruous with the rest of the image. It's too bright. But I do love, no one's mentioned this, the interplay between the little church and the big church in each other's space. It's brilliant.
Excellent. Thanks, Christopher. Craig, right of reply.
I'm trying to find these sensor spots and I cannot see them on my screen. But look, and thank you for adding that element there, Christopher. That two little play off of the two churches. I'm just really rewarding this photographer. It's such an emotional, powerful impact, and to be able to see this and present this the way they have. I'm just rewarding it, and that's in that solid gold range. And I really highly recommend you guys look at that and look past. If you see the sensor spots, look past that. Embrace the true sense and the beauty of this image. It's an image you'd see on the wall.
All right, thanks, Craig. You're going to keep your score at 92. All other judges, rescore now, please. And we have some movement up to silver with distinction in 86. So excellent work, team. That's really good to see. Mika has been on for a mammoth 6 images, so we're going to give Mika a little rest and bring Johan back on. Next image, please. All right, we have an 81, a silver award, and Craig is going to wave his hand. It's a familiar sight. Go for it, Craig.
Yeah, this image got a very Jeffrey Smart feel to it, and I love that quirkiness of the composition to this, and the play and the color. And that's really where I rewarded this photographer for that really strong sense and use of the color and the play on this, and in bringing us to the and that relationship, that beautiful photographer Jeffrey Smart. I'll be interested to really hear what some other people see and don't see this as a solid silver distinction. I'm way out of my own here, but I'd be really interested to see why you don't see it in that direction.
Thanks, Craig. Peter, can I get you to speak to the image, please?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Two things that I'm enjoying it the same way as Craig did, especially the interplay between the sky and the colours in the building. The photographer's done a really good job of getting the tone of the shadows to work really well, but in doing so has not controlled the noise at all well, and that's a distraction for me. Also, a distraction are the two lights. I mean, I'm wondering whether the photographer left them in there because of their quirky differences or just decided it to be documentary about it. But in this category, you have got the ability to take those sorts of things out. And in this case, I think this image would have benefited by having both of those lights removed. But well seen and well managed. A good photograph. I'm probably going to come up to a low silver.
All right, thanks, Peter. Johan, you were very close to the average here.
Yeah. I would have liked to see the lights a little bit sharper, actually, make them present and make them own their position. I absolutely love the play with the pink and the blue. It's such a beautiful combination, and I would love to have seen just where the you know how you've got the balcony, the square balconies that seem to come out, or the tops of the stairs, or whatever they are. I would have loved to see the line that starts at the very bottom, that where those balconies hit the wall, to be the same distance all the way up. See how it seems to have been leaning out. So do you follow my drift? So there's a bigger gap on the next layer up between the square balcony and the wall that it's attached to, which suggests that it's on a tilt in some way. So if that could be corrected, then it'd be much stronger. I gave it an 80. I'm happy to squeak up, but probably not into a distinction.
All right, thanks, Johan. Craig, right of reply, please.
Yeah, thanks everyone. You've given me time to really look at and think of my words here. The noise, what I really enjoy actually about the noise is it adds some body and grit and adds that little sense of texture to this. Otherwise, it would be probably feeling yeah, the shadows give it the three-dimensional, but adding that, having that noise and grain, if you wanna take. I always say to my students, embrace the noise, embrace grain in the image, if you like, and use it to add body and add substance to the image. The two lights, what I really enjoy about the two lights, it adds a sense of tension to the image. And it breaks up the simplicity of it, and adds a different layer of complexity to it. I like also the aspect of it's got the little sense of Deco to it, and then brings into the modern straight hard edges to it as well. And you know, again, that simplicity and use of color. So that's where I really rewarded that photographer for that vision in something just so simple, in giving us this impactful image.
Excellent. Thank you, Craig. You're going to hold your score, and everyone else, please rescore. All right, we've moved up 1 point to 82, silver award. So it's good. And you know, the photographer somewhere really appreciates hearing all this discussion. It was excellent discussion. Scott, you're going to have a short break, and let's bring Matthew back onto the panel, please. And we'll have our next image. All right, we have an 88, a silver with distinction. We actually have, Craig, high enough for an automatic challenge. So, and given that you're on 98, it's not much higher you can move, but you can. So, Craig, we're going to let all judges who want to speak to this can speak to it. Craig, you're going to kick us off. And you're not going to get a right of reply, Craig, just to be really clear.
You know, the words that came to my mind when I looked at this, and I just, damn you photographers out there, man. You see these shots, and you just go, wow. And I go, wow, why wasn't I there photographing that myself? And this brings to me, this is a Steve Scalone written all over it. This essence of playing with the color of yellow and the blue, and the one solo person in this vast architecture environment. And that's where, this is where, again, I say to my students when I was teaching is, don't just interpret the piece of architecture the way the architect presented it to you. Add something that you as a photographer can add to the image that supports you as the photographer, not just the re-representation of the architect. So waiting for that moment, sitting there and saying, okay, I'm going to wait. Then this person could have waited 5, 10, 15 minutes for that right person, or they could have paid somebody to walk in there for them. Irrespective, it's a very calculated photograph, and the use of the essence of color with that one person, the crystal clear blue sky, the use of the lines that lead you right into that one person, and then you undulate through the rest of the image, and it just, that composition is just so sublime. So I saw it as a solid gold distinction at 98. I went right for my guts. And really, I think you guys need to reward this photographer for that presentation of this image.
Thank you, Craig. Peter, we're going to come to you next, please.
I've had to change technology, so I hope you can hear me okay.
Yep.
Good. I scored this at 82. It is a very well-made image. And I like how the photograph explains the building, gives you an understanding of how it works and what happens, and the little figure with the yellow coat on adds to it in ways that Craig has explained. But I don't think the photographer has brought much more to us than making a very good representation of what is already there. And all credit for doing that in such a well done way. The inclusion of the single figure is hardly innovative. It's something that we've seen all before quite a few times. And for those reasons, I'm going to leave my score at a silver, a well-deserved silver.
Thank you, Peter. Matthew, I'd love to get some words from you, please.
Look, the image is definitely very, very striking. I mean, it's a fantastic piece of architecture. The photographer has controlled all of the whites really, really well to give, you know, all of them separation and detail that we're seeing in them. I really love the decisive moment of the person being connected to two parts of the building. You know, they've picked the exact right moment for them to step up the step that they're stepping up. I'm sitting at 87 at the moment. I think it can probably come up higher. The things that I'm picking out on it, I think I said it way at the beginning of the night, some frequency separation that would allow you to clean up the tiles or the panels on that left curve as we're going up. That doesn't take away from the texture. It doesn't take away from the image. It just cleans up underneath of it to give you a cleaner look. And then a couple of other tiny little things, again, calling ones and twos, you know, or ones and zeros out in things. That dark little spot on the right hand side just bugs me a little bit. You know, Scott talked about his OCD a little bit tonight. That's bugging me a little bit. And then if we move across to the left on the inside of the building, there's this tiny little something on there that's sticking out of the building, and that little thing is bugging me as well. And the sky, there's just some separation in the blue, and blue is really, like, in this strong a blue, it's really difficult to work with. You know, it's a very, very complicated thing. It might look simple, but there's maybe even just a little bit too much sky in the shot. Other than that, it's a really fabulous image.
Well, thank you, Matthew. Johan.
Okay. Yeah, I gave this an 83. I really, really loved the image. I wanted to go much further, and I debated about whether the yellow figure was almost becoming a cliche in a way. But Craig, you've talked me into it. I'm with you on the yellow figure. There's three things, or maybe four, that bug me. And we could eliminate that black spot on the right-hand side if we got rid of that little bit of the curve, because that little bit of the curve actually adds nothing to the photograph. And if you took it out, it would just simplify the form. It would make it flow better. It would be just so much easier to look at. If you went straight down from there, there's some white edges on the tiles that would easily have been just adjusted and taken out of the image. And then if you zoom across to the other end, there's another white edge coming in there, and that would easily have been fixed. And that banding in the sky, just that threw me out completely. And for an image where you're looking at tonality and the shape and form of the building, the sky is part of that, and it doesn't deserve that banding. So I'm feeling brutal. I'm willing to come up, but I don't think I can go into a gold for it. Sorry. But keep talking, you never know.
Thank you, Johan. Christopher, brief comment from you.
When we're at university, unfortunately, it's beaten into us to give a bit of space for text. I just think if this became a true panoramic 16:9 crop and you lost at least 25% of that blue, your building grows in stature and importance. It's not a little pimple anymore, it's a mountain. And the photo doesn't fall out the bottom like it seems to be here. But I gave it 89. I probably am going to go into gold because I think it's an exquisite representation. The architect would love you for it.
All right, thanks, everyone. There is no right of reply from Craig, so Now I'd like to ask you all to rescore, please. And we've made it to a gold with a 90. Spectacular work, team. Fantastic. And ladies and gentlemen, that is our final image for what has been an epic architecture category. Would have made Steve proud, I know. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, judges. It has been spectacular to watch you work as a team, communicate effectively, and come to a consensus. Brilliant work. Really appreciate everything you've done. I'm going to pass it over to Robin Campbell now to take us home.
Yeah, Chris, you're absolutely right. I think definitely an amazing category, would have made Steve proud. And Chris, well done for steering the judging ship. I'm sure you would have made him incredibly proud too. So well done, everybody. So that brings us to the close of the online judging of the architecture category for 2025. Thank you to our judges for your insight and to our entrants for giving us your best. So many great images there. If you didn't make it in the top 30, remember, rewatch the judging, learn what you can, come back stronger next year. Thanks so much to our software guru, Daniel, who's working hard behind the scenes, Chris for all of your director of judging work, and our behind the scenes crew. Thank you to our sponsors, Nikon, AZO, KL, Godox, Ilford, Photography Studies College, and Print Shop. Thank you for empowering this community to create beautiful imagery. Thank you to our online audience for tuning in and celebrating the excellence in photography. Now remember, winners for this category will be announced during the live awards presentation next Sunday at 5 p.m. So mark it in your calendar. We'll be back at 7 o'clock tomorrow night for the judging of the macro category. Hopefully we'll see you then. Take care.
Wow, photographing the way I do, but with my colors, this will change everything.
I got to see each frame, each position of its wing, and they're so beautiful that I have never seen before.
Being able to move quickly and working at my brain's pace and getting those shots in the moment. Having this camera allows you to go out and create the way you want to create.
Until you use it, you cannot even imagine what you have missed.
It's something I've never seen before in my entire life. It's something totally different.
Nikon Z6 III. Outperform.
Introducing ISO Color Edge. Precision is essential for any professional working with images. Whether you're an artist, a retoucher, or a visual effects specialist, you need to know that what you see at the start of a project is precisely what you'll get at the end. Color Edge monitors give consistent, reliable accuracy that guarantee no surprises within your color workflow. So what you see in real life is what you see on screen, and what you see on screen is what you see in real life. That's precisely why professionals all over the world trust ISO Color Edge for their image creation. ISO Color Edge. Discover living, breathing color.